Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good night out there. So, what are we doing tonight? Well, we're playing with the new Spicerack plugin from Process.audio, which is a distortion and saturation box. Distortion and saturation are some of my favorite tools to play with. So, looking forward to checking this thing out. If you haven't been on the channel before, the whole purpose of the channel is for me to try this out in real time. I haven't heard the plugin at all yet. I've read the manual, but I don't know how it sounds. So this is a real-time discovery process with you. The whole stream started from me looking for digital tools that enhance workflow and that sound great and just to have fun. I mean, I love playing with new plugins, and this is a great way to get to do that. Process.audio. What do we know about Process.audio? Well, they are the software division of PureMix. And if you don't know what PureMix is, puremix.net is one of the premier education and community spots that we have online in the pro audio world. An incredible platform, especially in this day and age where there isn't really a lot of mentorship anymore in the industry. A lot of learning is done independently, and a lot of us do work very much in solitude. So it's a great place to learn, and PureMix has everything right from the beginning and the basics all the way up to master classes. So whether you're looking to learn or whether you're just looking to get inspired, PureMix is a phenomenal spot. And yeah, Process.audio is their software division that they started up a couple of years ago, and this is their third plugin. And these plugins, the development's led by Fab DuPont, but it includes a whole team of world-class engineers. So their plugins are really well thought out and developed and really lean on workflow and sonic quality in the digital domain. So I have a feeling this thing's going to be right up my alley. So this should be a lot of fun. Along with this being my own personal plugin exploration, I kind of have my own little nerdy checklist that I like to go through before I even dive into the plugin. Just things that I'm looking for right off the hop, that if I can see if they're there, that I know from a workflow standpoint that it's probably going to fit into my workflow, things that I like to see. The first thing on that checklist is the GUI. How's the user interface look? Well, this thing looks pretty slick. It looks very modern and very clean and simple, easily laid out. It looks pretty intuitive. So GUI looks great, and I can tell that it's resizable because we got our little resizable square there. So yeah, the GUI looks great, modern, simple, and it's resizable. So that's awesome. Next up on the checklist is AB and undo and redo. And I actually don't see that on this plugin, which it kind of surprises me, to be honest. I would think that AB and undo and redo would be a part of the workflow. Maybe it's in there somewhere. I didn't see it in the manual though either. So we don't have any AB, undo, and redo. Meters, we got meters on the plugin, which is great. They're a little far apart. I'd like for them to be, oh no, the meters are right beside each other. This is our reduction down here. Perfect. The meters, the dry signal and the wet signal are living side by side. So that's great. I'll put RMS meters, dry signals on the left and the wet signals on the right. Awesome. That's beautiful. I love meters. I love when they're close together. I love that I don't have to go looking left and right. That's amazing. And yeah, we have tooltips on the GUI, which I didn't mention off the hop either, but we have tooltips, which is phenomenal. I love tooltips. We have a mix knob, and we have a gain match. And this plugin's really interesting. It auto calibrates to your signal, so it actually learns and gain stages your signal properly for how it's supposed to be hitting the device, which is super slick. I find that really, really cool. That's a wonderful benefit, that it'll auto input into this thing and set it up so that you are hitting it in the ideal way, which is great. And then I'm going to add this as a new addition to my nerdy checklist, the manual. I'm going to add manuals to my nerdy checklist because I think they're really important, and the manual on this is phenomenal. Oh man, I always forget latency. I always forget it. It's right there on my checklist, and I always forget it. Are we running any latency? This thing starts off in 0 latency, but we do have oversampling options. So 2 times, 4 times, and 8 times. And each one of those just bumps up our latency. But but not by much. What is this thing running? 53 samples, 81 and 94. So very, very minimal latency and oversampling modes. And because it has a zero latency mode, this is something that you can use in production or live if you're wanting to. So that's a bonus. But yeah, this thing checks off pretty much all my boxes except for the AB and undo, which would be great. Great addition to the plugin if that was there. And then yeah, the new addition to my nerdy checklist is the manual. And this thing has got a great manual. And I love a good manual. I know that's a super nerdy thing to say, but I love it. And there's a lot of great information in this manual. I went through it. So we're going to hop over here next and we're going to spend some time here. So yeah, about Process Audio. Making records used to be about the music. In the recent past, with the advent of the digital workflow, making records has increasingly become an exercise in minutia as well as a plug-in arms race. Great. Creating a steep learning curve and shifting focus to the tools at the expense of the music. Process Audio was founded by a team of world-class music-making professionals led by Fab DuPont to create music-making tools that strike the perfect balance between analog workflow and digital technology, only enhancing their owner's process. Love it. That's what I'm all about. That's what this whole stream is all about. Yeah, about Spicerack. Spicerack reimagines the conventional approach to audio saturation and distortion, elevating the process to new heights of creativity. Spicerack features 5 completely different flavor modules of harmonic distortion to saturate, distort, shape, or texturize your sounds. Those 5 algorithms have been carefully developed and tuned to provide a wide color palette that is truly useful for every producer and mixing engineer. Spicerack's interface was designed to dial in the right amount of saturation as fast as possible with minimum brain share. I love that sentence. That's a great sentence. The unique auto gain compensation and calibration feature make for a smooth drive knob ranging from subtle saturation to aggressive distortion with no level jumps. Having auto gain in there is a phenomenal bonus, especially with distortion. You're not going to have your head blown up or your speakers blown out as you're turning the knob, and you can hear things in context. I think that's really important. Other Spicerack key features include the console remote, a unique protocol allowing inter-plugin communication and remote control, and a very creative audio gate circuit that helps morph Spicerack's distortion effects from conventional all-out chaos to precise sound design tools. So that's great. Distortion types, we got 5 flavors. All Spicerack algorithms can work in linear phase mode, thereby ensuring a perfect blend with no phase cancellation issues when using your wet dry knob. So yeah, a lot of detail here. Input volume changes the input gain into Spicerack's processing path. This is a very first link in the chain. We would advise you not to use too much in order to preserve Spicerack's internal gain staging process. If you can't get enough saturation, try using the +18 button. So that's great. Distortion meter. This VU meter lookalike does not show your audio level, but the amount of distortion applied to it. If the needle does not move, it means your audio is left untouched. The higher the number, the more distorted your audio will sound. So that's great. We have a little bit of feedback on how much we are pushing. We have a boost knob. This switch will add 18 dBs of gain. The boost is fully taken into account in our auto gain compensation algorithm, so you can play with it without any risk of blowing up your monitoring system. Awesome. Mid-side, we have a drive knob. At 0%, your signal will be left untouched, identical to your dry signal. This is unusual behavior for a distortion plugin, which will very often process and distort your signal even at its lowest drive amount. So you can have this in clean bypass. Auto gain control. When hitting the calibrate button, Spicerack will listen and analyze your audio in order to apply the best volume compensation profile after the drive knob. That's smart and that's unique. I can't think of a plugin that does that. So that's really cool. The AGC allows you to crank up the drive knob without significant jumps in volume, which is always preferable when distorting audio. This makes for a very fast workflow when your ears are not being fooled by levels as you dial in your drive amount and are able to make judgment calls slowly based on sound quality. Great. Equalizer. The equalizer is really interesting on this as well. Spicerack features an unprecedented implementation of a parametric equalizer. This design was made to be intuitive and allow you to work faster. We believe the frequencies are perceived by the human body in the bottom to top manner, not left to right. Bottom frequencies are often resonating in the lower part of the abdomen, whereas the higher frequencies can be felt as high as your forehead or even above your head. This EQ representation allows you to dial in settings that you feel with 2 filters and a bell. That's pretty unique. Linear phase filters. When turning on the linear phase switching, Spicerack internal filters and the EQ filters will all become linear phase. It costs more CPU, adds some latency, but will ensure a perfect blend with no phase cancellation, so that's great. Oversampling. We have our oversampling there to deal with our aliasing, so that's awesome. And then we have a great diagram of the signal path. That's awesome. This manual rocks, in my opinion. So great job on the manual, and I mean, what an in-depth plugin. A lot going on, but hopefully as we're trying it out here, it's going to be pretty simple. So what do we got on the plugin? Well, we've got our drive, tube, amp, lo-fi, fuzz. We have our input knob. We have our output knob down here. We have our gate, input and outputs, and it looks like we have, advanced controls for the gate, attack, release, high pass filters, and we can listen to our sidechain, so that's cool. Very standard gate features. We have our drive section. I mean, interesting right off the hop to see that they talk about that at 0% it doesn't affect your audio, but they start you at 20%. I like it when plugins don't process my audio right off the rip, so interesting that they mention that, but then that don't do it. Our boost, 18 dB boost, stereo mid side. We got our distortion meter. We have our EQ, which I'm pretty excited to play with. This looks interesting. Wow, interesting. Cool. We have our swap. We have our tilt filter. And then we have our wet gain and our mix knob. So that's awesome. Output, great. Linear phase, great. Oversampling, we already checked that out. And then we have this console. Seems to me, from reading about it in the manual, seems to me to be like kind of a very similar to like the Slate VCC or Waves NLS summing, or kind of like the gang controls on the Studer A800 from Universal Audio, so that you can kind of gang a bunch of channels together and then process them as you want. So interesting, and I think it's really cool that we're seeing that from a lot of plugins starting to talk to each other. That's kind of all the technical stuff, I think. God, I've already been talking for 25 minutes. Chatty Brad. How are we going to test this thing out? Well, we're going to try it out on a rock mix, something that needs saturation, something that begs for it, that wants to be distorted. I think we're going to mainly try it out on the drums, and then once we have a feel for it, we'll try and spread it out on the whole mix, and we'll see what this console biz is all about. This track is called Here Comes the Flood by Cobra Ramone. The awesome Cobra Ramone. So yeah, we're just going to focus on the drums, I think. So yeah, in its default state, it is processing on us. So it's okay that it does that. I mean, you kind of expect it from distortion plugins, but I always love when plugins load up and they're not doing anything until I tell them to do it. That's my own personal preference. Okay. Well, I think the first thing we gotta do is hit this calibrate button so it's listening. It's calibrated, looks like it's working in LUFS. Well, let's just start at 0 and turn it up. Is this loud enough for everybody out there? Okay, yeah, here we go. Sweet. Thank you, Mike. pretty nice distortion. Doesn't get harsh at all. Well, I guess we should probably hit the +18 button. God, I love distorting stuff. Yeah, that drive's pretty nice, gritty. Pretty musical sounding distortion. Nothing harsh in here at all. Yeah, that sounds great. All right, let's try out Mr. Tubes. Really dark, really creamy. Yeah, nothing harsh. So tubes sound great. This gain compensation is awesome. Yeah, nothing harsh in any of the distortion. Especially for tubes. I mean, I feel like tubes can get pretty kind of barky on you. Tube bass distortion anyways. Okay, let's try out at the amp. Thins out, tightens up. But even though it thins out, we're not getting anything harsh or painful in it at all. Like it's not. We've obviously spent a lot of time fine-tuning these algorithms so that you can really push them. You're not getting anything crazy. I mean, to be honest, I don't generally reach for amp-based distortion in mixing, just because I find that it gets edgy and harsh really easily, and it usually thins out your signal too much. This isn't doing that at all. Okay. All right, some lo-fi. Oh, now we can hear the kind of the aliasing and bit crushing kind of coming into play. Definitely lo-fi vibes. It doesn't really kind of feel like lo-fi. So kind of at 70% to me. Just kind of some nice gritty bit crushing up until then. it really just kind of crosses over there at 68, 69. Sounds great though. Alright, Fuzz. Yeah, it's so smooth even when it's gross, right, Mike? It's crazy. Like, that's the smoothest sounding digital lo-fi I've heard. Alright, Mr. Fuzz. Whoa. Yeah, even that's not hard on the ears. Okay, well, that is 5 distinctively different flavors of distortion and saturation. I kind of feel like and I mean, I've been using this for all of 10 minutes or something at this point. I feel like drive and tube is probably where I would live. Mainly drive in particular, but all really great. All right, let's try our EQ out because I'm really curious about that. I think we're just gonna stick to drive. Yeah, how creative is this EQ? So this is our low pass filter, and it's got resonant peaks. Wow. And how do I change the... Oh, shift changes my... Shift changes my slope. Command changes my Q. Sounds great. What a unique approach to EQ. How tight does our Q get? So we get a Q from 0.1 all the way. Yeah, super cool. I've never seen anything like this. So we get all the way from 0.10 to 10. Wow. All right, let's try our tilt out. Great, let's try swapping it. Wow. God, even when you push it to the absolute limit here, it's not harsh. And even kind of on the opposite end, I wonder if, like, can we really... Doesn't get overly... Are all of the EQ points automatable? Good question. Yeah, great question. So you can automate the EQ. That's a fantastic question. I wouldn't even have thought of that, Mike. Sounds great. But yeah, even on like the extreme low end, like it's blowing out, but it's not getting gross or out of control. And let's try our linear phase out. You can instantly hear the linear phase kind of class. I always find that whenever you engage a linear phase EQ, it just sounds a little classier. It's a little smoother. Okay. So, and if we're playing with the linear phase, we should try our mix knob out. So we're on linear phase. Yeah, you can hear, without it being on the linear phase mode, it sounds a little thinner, it sounds a little bitier, and that's because we're getting phase cancellation. Pop it in, it just sounds rich. Still usable. We should get the old system usage up. So it does use a little more juice too, which it says, but not a crazy amount. And I think if you're going to use that and blend, just when we're hearing it here, definitely sounds better with the linear phase in. Okay. Let's try our oversampling now. Okay, so yeah, oversampling. 2 times. Four times. 8 times. So we can just kind of hear it getting rounder, kind of all the edges falling off as we oversample up. And we lose all that aliasing artifacts as we oversample. Here we'll push it, just kind of top and the bottom get better. As always with oversampling, it just feels like the image just gets wider, taller, deeper. So 0 oversampling. A few times, I mean, you can really hear that on the top and the bottom. I feel like, actually, especially on the bottom on this, right at the moment. Zero oversampling, just a little edgier, just getting some of that aliasing, some of that bounce back into your audio. And what's the processing hit like on the 8 times? Seems pretty minimal. Yeah, it seems pretty minimal. So that's great. We've worked through the 5 modules. We've worked through the drive and the EQ. So we got our gate to play with, and then we've got our console to play with. This thing sounds awesome though, so far. The initial thoughts are well impressed. Yeah, let's try out our gate. The gate lives pre everything, so we can get rid of our signal to noise ratio issues if we're running into that, which is something you can really run into when you start blowing stuff up. But I also think you can use it as a pretty creative tool. You can just distort the bits that you want to distort. So what do we got here? We got our reductions, we got our floor. Listen in on the filters so we can really focus it in. It's too bad there wasn't a mix knob on the gate. I guess I could just mix this in. What am I talking about? There is a mix knob. It's pretty hard gate. Sounds nice though. So our gate works like a gate. You can clean up your audio before you. And you can definitely use the range to get a little bit creative if you want to. I do feel like I want a wet dry on the gate though overall, so that I can blend in some of that gated signal. Am I crazy? Does that sound like an idea? I think all we've got left to do is the console. So we're in the console, and we have 7 channels available to us in the console. And I think these are like banks. We have 7 banks available to us. So if I add everything to channel 1, how do I do that? Okay, you're on channel 1. You're on channel 1. You're on channel 1. Let's get them all there. Okay, So everything's on channel 1 now. Will it automatically learn? Is it just the drive controls and the mix and the output? If I hit calibrate, am I going to get everything? No. Okay, so you have to calibrate every instance. Okay, so we have all of our units calibrated now. That'd be cool if the calibration was a global control with this remote. Okay, so now can I just drive from here? Oh, and you can individually manipulate.
I put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew that you could be so heartless. Take whatever
And you get all the instances with the meters, and we can scroll to see all of our instances. They seem to be out of order.
Revelation could be more thoughtless. Put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I hope redemption gets you through this darkness. I'm letting go of that cry. I'll ride around in the mud for you. I put my sins in the car, I leave my keys in the door. I never knew that you could be.
It's just a global control, and then I have individual control, so really makes it like a VCA group, which is cool. It doesn't snap all my levels back when I hit the drive, so. And can I quickly reset them all? I can. Cool. This is unique. Unique portion of the plugin. It's amazing. I just made a massive jump and my ears didn't get taken out. Is this a global bypass? Oh, it is. Okay. Pretty slick. Pretty well thought out. Yeah, I think we've worked our way through the whole thing. This thing's a lot of fun. Distortion's a lot of fun. Saturation's a lot of fun, and this thing's a lot of fun to do those things with. Yeah, I think it's time to recap. So what are we doing? We were checking out the Spicerack from Process Audio, their new saturation and distortion unit. And yeah, my quick take is I'm going to be using this thing everywhere, quickly, all the time. This is a really creative and fun tool, and it sounds fantastic. What do they say here in the manual at the beginning? Process Audio was founded by a team of world-class music-making professionals led by Fab DuPont to create music-making tools that strike the perfect balance between analog workflow and digital technology, only enhancing their owner's process. They 100% nailed that. The workflow part of it is phenomenal. It's really easy and fun to use, and it sounds great, and it's really creative, and you can get a lot happening very quickly. And there's just some really unique things on this plugin that I have not seen before. The auto gain calibrate on the distortion so that it's setting up the optimal gain staging through the plugin. That's super unique and interesting. I can't think of another plugin that sets up your audio like that. I can't think of something that's taken out the mystery of gain staging and how to optimally hit the plugin. They really lower the bar of entry into distortion, because distortion, at least for me anyways, is I do pay a lot of attention to my gain staging, and I do want to know how I'm hitting distortion plugins and distortion units, because they are typically distorting the minute that you are engaging them. So the fact that they take that guesswork out of the equation for you is phenomenal. The EQ is really unique. What a unique way to look at EQ. And I look forward to playing with that more. And it's really simple and fun to use and quick. And then the console remote, while there are lots of plugins that allow you to kind of gang control things, this has got some interesting things in it that I can individually access all of them here from the console remote. So you can really kind of dial in what you're doing on individual sources, and you get up to seven banks, and you can bypass individually or globally. It's really slick. The oversample's great. The linear phase sounds great. You have tooltips everywhere. You're not going to get lost on this thing. It's pretty intuitive once you dive into it. All the distortion modes sound great. They all sound great. Even when we absolutely punished them, none of them felt harsh. None of them felt painful or unruly. I mean, it got unruly, but not in a sonic standpoint, in the sense that it was doing any sort of damage to me. And the fact that it's auto gain staged and gain matched really, really well is phenomenal. I think if you're going to have a distortion plugin and you don't have gain matching on it, that's a bit of a loss, because you want to be able to hear in context. You want to be able to make these decisions in context. So it's great that it has that. You can push it and not worry about taking your head off. What other things that I love on this plugin? There's a lot to like here. The meters, the fact that the input and output are right beside each other, that was great. The manual for this thing, as I said right off the hop, is well worth the read. And if you're not into the manual, just make sure you got the tooltips on, because lots of great information. Oh, I didn't even notice that in the console remote, you can change the individual elements as well. That's slick. This console remote thing is super slick. That's really cool. Things that I would like to see on the plugin, I think AB and undo, redo would be great features to have. That's really the only thing missing from my kind of personal workflow checklist, is the AB and undo. I think some more controls from this console remote thing would be great, or maybe some global controls, that if I want to up my oversampling, I can do that from a global position. And if I want to engage linear phase or disengage linear phase, I could do that from a global position. Say you are worried about CPU usage, you could work without the linear phase, or you could work without the oversample. And then if you have multiple instances in a mix and you go to bounce down, you could easily just engage those things for the quality. I mean, it is going to change how your mix is sounding and how you've been living with it, but generally, anytime that I've had to oversample or engage linear phase at the end, it sounds great. So, and then also a global calibrate feature, because if I want to just put this on at the beginning of a mix on a bunch of things that I know I'm going to want to distort, it'd be cool to be able to globally calibrate. These are pretty picky things though, and certainly workflow focused things from a sonic standpoint have no wants or needs. This thing covers a lot of ground with the 5 different flavors, and with the plus 18 dB drive, whatever you're looking to saturate or distort, you're going to be able to do it. Yeah, the workflow is, I mean, this plugin's built with workflow and built with sonics in mind, and I think they've accomplished both those goals. And creativity, it's really creative and fun to use. Yeah, this thing's a W from my standpoint. Checks a lot of boxes, and I'm going to be definitely using it in some mixes here right away. It sounds great, and it's fun and creative, and it's built around workflow. So that's what the whole purpose of this stream is to find some plugins that check all of those boxes, and this definitely does that. So yeah, great job, Process Audio. Well done. But yeah, that's gonna cover it for me. Thanks for tuning in tonight. A little bit of a later stream, but a great crowd. So that's awesome. Yeah, if you're catching this on YouTube, if you're enjoying the content, please hit the subscribe, turn your notifications on. And if you try this out, please let me know what you think, or if you're using it already, let me know where you're using it and how you're finding it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This was a lot of fun. This was a fun one to do. Have a great night, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.